Ben Shapiro is a very smart, quick-witted, and articulate guy. Thanks be to God that he's using these gifts to fight against progressivism and woke ideologies. I admire and respect him for that. In one of his recent videos, a viewer wanted to know the Jewish perspective on the book of Joshua. Ben is an Orthodox Jew. The viewer said that the book did not align with their values because God asked the Jews to wipe out the Canaanites. This viewer doubted God would command his covenant people to do such a thing. Watch what Ben had to say about this.
So the thing to understand about the book of Joshua or elements of the Old Testament, the position against Amalek, for example, or Midian, the idea of full-on wiping out your enemies was a common practice of the time. And so the real shocker in the book of Joshua is that it's restricted to certain circumstances. The key to the Old Testament is to understand that that is sort of the way of the world. And so what you're actually looking at is moderation of that, because God is only giving specific commands to do this with specific people, as opposed to the broader command that is generalized throughout human history to do it to pretty much everybody else.
Ben attempted to answer this question by saying that destroying an entire civilization was common practice at the time. I don't think this answer is satisfactory because God does not play by the rules of the world. God would not do something because it is the norm. That goes contrary to his word that says that we should not be conformed to the world, but we should be transformed by the renewing of our minds. God does not play by our rules. So I'm going to give further explanation as to why God asked the Israelites to annihilate the Canaanites. First and foremost, we have to realize that God is sovereign over all things. He is our creator and he has the right to rule and exercise his righteous judgment over us. Even as human beings, we've put systems in place where people who go contrary to societal laws are judged and are punished. And some of us are even not judges, but every now and then we meet our judgments on our subordinates. How much more God? There's also the fact that God is holy and he cannot ignore sin. God is so holy that he cannot tolerate sin. Imagine being someone who is clean. You like your house or the room you stay in to be clean always. If you come and you realize that somebody has created a mess, you clean it up. That is God. He cleans up the mess. He cannot tolerate sin. The third thing is that, so given that God is our creator and he can judge us, given that he is holy and cannot ignore sin, he had to punish the Canaanites. Why? The Canaanites were involved in wicked practices, so God decided to execute judgment on them. The only thing is that he decided to use the Jews to execute the judgment that he had pronounced on the Canaanites. So what exactly were the sins of the Canaanites? Let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 18 verse 9 to 12. And it reads, this is God talking. When you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not learn to imitate the detestable ways of the nations there. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, who interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. Because of these same detestable practices, the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you. So here it is, you've heard it. The wicked practices of the Canaanites. They were sacrificing their children, they were involved in human sacrifices and all the abominable practices you can think of. So God in his infinite wisdom, God in his holiness had to act. He had to clean up their mess. He pronounced judgment of them because he's a righteous judge. So he pronounced judgment on them. But he decided to use the Jews to execute this sentence or judgment. Now, mind you, God warned the Israelites that if they did the same thing, they also will be punished. So let's look at Leviticus chapter 20, verse 22 to 24. God is talking. He says, Keep all my decrees and laws and follow them, so that the land where I am bringing you to live may not vomit you out. You must not live according to the customs of the nations I am going to drive out before you. Because they did these things, I abhorred them. Because I said to you, you will possess their land. I will give it to you as an inheritance, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, who has set you apart from the nations. So the Israelites were also warned, the Jews were also warned that, look, if you go and start copying these abominable practices, then you will also be punished. There's also the fact that some of the Nephilim were present among the Canaanites. The people who were sent to go and spy Canaan came back with reports that they saw descendants of the Nephilim on the land of Canaan. Who are the Nephilim, or who were the Nephilim? The Nephilim were hybrids resulting from relations between fallen angels and human beings. These abominable beings were a result of Satan's attempt to corrupt the seed of man, so that the promise of God, the promise God gave us in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15 will not be realized. What is this promise? God said, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. This is a promise concerning the Messiah, how the Messiah would come and save mankind from the clutches of the enemy. And so since this promise was given, the devil has been trying to mess up with the DNA of man. The devil has been trying to corrupt the seed of man so that this promise would not be realized. So the Nephilim were the primary reason why God destroyed the earth with flood waters during the days of Noah. As to how at the time of Joshua, some of the Nephilim were still in existence, and there are lots of schools of thought, and I don't want us to go into that because that is not the focus of our discussion today. Okay, but the point is that some of the Nephilim existed, and if God did not wipe them out, they were going to procreate, they were going to mess up with the DNA of man, and that would affect the promise of God for us, our Messiah coming through the line of David to save us. So these are the reasons why God asked the Jews to destroy the Canaanites. It is not because God is wicked. It is not because maybe the book of Joshua is false. Sometimes we feel like we know better than God. We feel like we're more kind and humane than God. But whatever attributes we have, these good attributes, God has it in abundance. So we don't know better than God. God does not do things anyhow. He has reasons for doing them. So you have to dig deeper to understand, some of the things that God does. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any other thing you would want us to discuss, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you on that. Stay blessed.